Akinola. It's just so lovely to have you here today, and I'm so excited and looking forward to having this conversation with you. So, I'm going to first start by asking you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Firstly, thank you for having me. Thank you for putting this together, Adora. Appreciate you. Um, my name is Akinola Davis Jr. I am Nigerian, but born in London, and I am a filmmaker,
Yeah.
predominantly a filmmaker, a storyteller that is generally involved in moving image, I'd say.
I read somewhere you said, and I quote, I respect people I respect people who do not think of themselves in the singular capacity and are willing to explore several facets of their talents. And I actually wondered, why did you actually stumble upon filmmaking, or you actually had this moment where you realized, or you had this moment of clarity where you realized, oh, I'm actually going to become a filmmaker?
Wow, did I say that? I think,
Yeah, you said that somewhere.
well, I think I'm not sure I wanted to be a filmmaker, if I'm perfectly honest. I think I'm not sure I knew what I wanted to do when I was a lot younger. I think I I wasn't particularly good at a lot of things in school. Uh,
Right.
but but when I was engaged, when I had teachers or people who really believed in me or really encouraged me, I always wanted to try and do my best for those people.
Mhm.
And I think quite early on, when you go through careers day and stuff like that, and people are trying to figure out what they want to do, and you're like, it's like, damn, Aki, you're not very good at maths, so like nothing maths related is really going to work out for you. You're not very good at science, so that's really not going to work out, and you're not really getting the good grades in English, which you seem to be drawn to.
Mm.
So I think I was just sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I think within there I was really good at history. I
Wow.
always got A stars at history, and I was really interested in politics. And I think maybe through history or through really good history teachers, they always managed to tell really good stories. And I think I developed an interest in telling stories. I didn't know at the time, but I picked up a camera, film camera, and just started like walking around with it every day and taking pictures every day. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm posting stuff on Facebook. I'd take black and white pictures, I put on Facebook, and I'd write little stories of what I was taking pictures of. And then just like consuming a lot of stuff online. There used to be a big social media platform called Bebo. There was one called High Five back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember on Bebo, they made like a TV show, but they pretended like it was people on Bebo. And I thought, oh, me and my friends can do this. We can write something. But I think my best friend's dad was an editor. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be involved in film, maybe I'm going to be an editor. And I was saying that for years, even though I was doing other jobs. I worked in a call center, I worked behind the bar, I worked in a club, in a cloakroom, I worked in like the Gap for a few years. And then I started working in a production company in an advertising agency on reception in London, and just really enjoyed being in London and around stuff being made. And then I applied. My contract didn't get renewed, so I applied. I was like, wow, what am I going to do? You know, like I'm back to square one again. But I really liked being in London, really liked being around creative people. And I was like, okay, well, I've been saying I'm a storyteller for ages, so let me try and see if I can do it. So then I applied to do a filmmaking workshop in America. And then that was in 2009. And then, yeah, did that for a few months, and then moved back to London and kind of got stuck into stuff, basically.
So, to someone who is out there and they are actually good at several things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they're not too sure what exactly they want to do because I feel like I have people who are really close to me who would call me sometimes. They're like, "Oh, Adora, I need to find what my purpose is. I need to find what that's thing is that I'm supposed to do to contribute to this world. And sometimes people get stuck in at that point where they're trying, oh, I need to find what that thing is, as opposed to trying so many things and then finding out what exactly they're supposed to do. So do you advise that people should actually stick to one thing? Obviously, what you said is actually do so many things and then find
Yeah.
out what you're good at.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that I think it's really hard to put a lot of pressure on yourself at a young age to figure out what you're really good at. I don't think it's very realistic. I think, unfortunately, we go through a system that like puts a lot of pressure on you to choose really early on. And a lot of us don't know what we want to do. Like a lot of us may not have even gone to uni had we known we had the choice not to, and maybe just done apprenticeships. So, I mean, in response to what you said, I think realistically, what's important is just to start learning your place in the world and learning how you interact with the world, which is basically like just getting a job, seeing what getting a job is like, whether it's a job you care for or whether it's a job you don't care for. I'll always say like get a job, because you know, like your first job isn't gonna be a director, you know, your first job working behind the bar, and all those things are good experience, because mostly the world is dealing with people no matter what you're into, and it's good to start learning how to deal with people. In terms of people who do multiple things, I would say, you know, if you live in London, it's an expensive city, I would definitely say get a job that pays and like is pretty regular so you can pay your rent. And then I would probably say do the thing you enjoy the most as opposed to the thing you think you want to do. I would always say do the thing you enjoy the most, because again, you're young, and so long as you're in a healthy place that builds your confidence and you enjoy doing it, you can always grow into doing other jobs, other roles, other disciplines. But I think it's really important to get a good relationship with what the commitment of a job, you know, like turning up on time, like doing the job diligently, like, you know, doing the hours, like getting paid, etc. And then you can start to figure out, once you've got through that, you can start to figure out the thing you enjoy and you're good at, because the thing you enjoy doesn't always pay. It's important to have something that pays, and then you start doing the thing you enjoy. And also, if you have a thing that pays, you can experiment. You can afford to experiment. If you're working, like I work behind a bar 4 days a week, 3 weekdays and 1 weekend, which meant the rest of the time I could like assist art department or assist directors, or, you know, go to castings to be on the other end of the camera, or assist costume or whatever. So yeah, I would say don't stress about picking the perfect thing. Just like get a basic job that pays and try a whole bunch of things out.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'm going to move forward. So being awarded the Grand Jury Prize for your short film Lizard last year, and also getting that email from BBC Commissioner, and then moving on to work with BBC, and working with so many fashion houses, especially Gucci. I've seen all the work you've done for Gucci, work for Mowbray, Aluwalia, Kenzo, and so many other fashion houses. So the question is, what did it cost you, or what did you have to give up to actually become this person?
That's a really good question. What did I have to give up? That's a tough one. I wouldn't phrase it like that, because I think saying that I've had to give up something means that like there's an aspect of losing a part of yourself, maybe. And I don't think I've had to give up anything. I think I've had to make choices, strategic choices for myself. And I think for a lot of the time I've had to really back myself when no one else would. I would say the sacrifices I've had to make is just like, I just decided that once filmmaking started working out, even, okay, so before filmmaking started working out, I had to take a risk and take a punt on myself and be like, yo, you're gonna go to this film school. And even after that, things didn't work out. And I got a lot of experience. I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna take these 4 or 5 years to just work with different people and learn my craft and work in a bar and blah, blah, blah. After I got a lot of experience, I met loads of people in the industry. And then I was like, okay, I'm still not getting the job. So I got another job, desk job, and spent all my savings shooting videos for my friends. So I wouldn't say like, and then even beyond that is like, I've had to say to myself, look, man, you have to dedicate your life to what it is you're interested in doing. And that means not very many holidays to begin, or not going to like, not buying expensive stuff for a few years, not living in an expensive place or having a nice place to live in, not seeing my family in some instances for a while. I mean, I think they're all sacrifices. I don't think I gave up on anything. They're just like sacrifices that I knew in my 20s. Maybe I didn't say to myself, but I knew in my 20s, like, if I'm gonna be able to sacrifice at any point in my life, this is the period. I wish I had that clarity of what I just said, but all I knew is that at some point, I'm gonna have to really just like be about this life. And ultimately that just means that you go through the trenches, you know, you do the work that people think is beneath them, if that makes sense. Carrying bags, picking up trash off sets, like, you know, waiting with bags in the middle of nowhere for someone, getting trains, like 2-hour trains to places, going to a cold studio every day when you're not getting paid, you know, like standing in for people on the camera, you know, like they're just all the things that I think for me were really humbling, because I did all the things that maybe people don't enjoy, and I was like, I still wouldn't change anything to be right here. So I think I knew quite early on that I was like, okay, well, this is the life I want to live. And if you know, it's still part of my practice. Like sometimes I go on set and I pick up trash and people see me and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh. And they get a bit surprised. But again, I don't think it's giving up on stuff. I think it's just knowing that, like, I didn't have any entry points into an industry. I didn't know anyone who was in an industry. I didn't know how I would proceed in an industry. So, you know, the best lessons I learned were just to be really humble and just, you know, just do the work people don't want to do, because people will always have you around if you're like working diligently and doing those jobs. And then often enough, you'll meet people, you meet good people, and they'll like, you know, they'll either be your friends or want to work with you, or both, basically. That's what I would say.
So could you actually expand on the part where you said you came into the industry with no sort of experience? So how did you build your contact? How did you get to know people, to be invited into this room? How did you get to the point where the person, the commissioner of BBC got you to emailed you? So how did you start from nothing, from no contact, no experience, to actually building experience and clientele?
Sure. One was by assisting. I assisted directors. I made myself available to some independent directors and filmmakers and blah 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 for a few years, and I knew that they had network and they had contacts, so I would meet people, and the people they would work with, they had assistants, and do you know what I mean? So on shoots I would go and I would meet people, and the people I liked and liked me, we would keep in touch. You know, people I didn't like but maybe were somewhere I thought I needed, maybe I tried, but those relationships never really manifested. I was always super polite. I was always super diligent. I always worked as hard as possible, always with a smile on my face as much as possible, never really complained. And I think that helped me build up a network and started seeing people more regularly. I think I was also just kind of like, I never got a job with a CV, if I'm honest. Like, I maybe have only written a CV twice in my life. So I'm just a very direct person. I would like, Instagram wasn't necessarily a big thing in 2009. So I would just find people's websites, type their name in Google. I still do it till today. Like if I meet someone, I'll just type their name in Google and see what comes up. Whereas like now you have LinkedIn, you have Insta, you have Twitter, you have websites. But back then you had websites. So you would type someone's name in, you find a website, maybe you find an email, you find a phone number. And if it's an email, I would just email them. I just say, hey, look, I really like your work. I saw this and that. I'm an assistant. I assist these people. If you ever need an assistant, I work for free, you know? And sometimes I would call people, or if I started following people on Twitter and stuff and I saw what parties they were going to, I would go to those parties and I knew what people looked like. Yeah. I remember I interned at the Fader in like 2009 as well. And in the corner of the Fader magazine or on the website, the editor would always put a picture of him and his favorite records. So I remember I went to a party in New York because they advertised it in the Fader and I saw the editor and I like cornered him. I said, hey, I'm from London. I love your records, the selection. I would love to like come and intern at the Fader for free. And he was like, no, we don't have any internships, but you know, come in, we'll show you around the office. And I went around the office and everyone I met, I was like, hey, I love your stuff. I love your articles, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the trip, they showed me around. They were like, look, we don't have any work, but if you want to come in a couple of days a week and maybe help the video guys out or whatever, we can find you some stuff to do for a little cash. And then I just did that. And it's kind of like knowing what people look like, knowing what they do, liking their stuff. And I think if you have a genuine interest in stuff, it's much better than pretending you have an interest in stuff. You know? I always say to people, pursue your interests because it will be a less hard to sell. It's easier to sell yourself if you have like a point of connection and interest in what you do. But yeah, and just emails, a lot of cold emails, a lot of like, hey, this is my work, this is the video I've shot. I would send my work to directors, ask for advice, and just like build relationships like that. Like Roman Gavras, who shot a lot of MIA's videos, who's signed to Iconoclast that I'm signed to. I met him in a pub. I was working behind the bar and he came into the bar and I said to the person next to me, I was like, yo, that's Roman Gavras. And they were like, who? Forget you. I went up to him, I served him, I was like, hey, are you Roman Gavras? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm a big fan, I love all your videos with MIA. Like, Bad Girls is one of my favorite videos ever. And he was like, oh man, thank you very much. And then he went outside and he drank his pint and hung out with his people. And I was like, kept my eye on him. I was like, just watching him.
Yeah.
And then he was leaving and I was like, fuck this, man. I ran. I left the room in the street and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry to chase you down like this. You must think I'm some crazy black guy, but I'm a filmmaker and I would love to either send you my films or if you ever need an assistant, I'll work for you for free. And he was like, oh, wow, thank you so much. He was like, look, I don't need an assistant, but you can send me your videos. And he was like, here, let me add you on Twitter. And he added me on Twitter because he didn't want to give me his number. So he added me on Twitter and I added him. And yeah, I would just send him my videos. Some of the first videos I sent him were terrible, but he gave me really good advice. He was like, try this. And then I would just send him stuff. And then after a while, he would come into the pub and text me when I eventually got his number. He's like, I'm coming to the pub. You want to come and have a drink or are you working? And then I would just tell him more about stuff. And eventually he was kind of pretty much the reason I got signed to Iconoclast, because he was like, hey, there's this kid, I've known him for years. His stuff has been improving over like the years, 6-7 years since we met. And he's got really good ideas and he's just a good person. And ultimately that's kind of what got me signed.
So a lot of young people at the moment, or not just young people, old people who are trying to start new, and they are normally faced with days of obscurity, uncertainties, doubt, fears, failures, and a lot of stuff. And I want to know, how did you handle days of obscurity? So did you have times, obviously you did have times where you felt like, is this actually work? And did you have doubts, and how did you actually handle those? How did you get past that stage of being in that situation?
Again, a super tough question. I would say that, okay, when I was younger, right? When I was at school, I used to fall in love like every other week. I'd have so many crushes on girls and be like, yo, I think I'm in love with you. I think I'm in love with you. I think I'm in love with you. And everyone was like really nice to me. They're like, no, you're not, but thank you. So I got used to rejection really early on. Is what I'm trying to say, is that I got really used to like people telling me no. And I guess at that age, you think it's heartbreak, but like you're 15, 14, you know about heartbreak, nothing. So by the time I started working and assisting, you know, like, again, I think everything needs a little pinch of salt. When you start doing whatever you're doing, you're not going to be very good, right? You're going to have a lot of work. So people might not want to work with you. It's understandable. It's nothing personal. You just don't have the things that fills people with confidence at that time. So you're going to get told no quite a lot. And I think a few things really help. One is like having the support of your family. I know a lot of people don't have the support of their family going into creative things, but if you do, it's great. My mum didn't understand what I was doing, but she was like, so long as you're happy, you know. And I had brothers and sisters that were really supportive, especially my sister, who wanted to be an actress. And then my brothers came along eventually, right? If you don't have that, it's having good friends. It's having friends who are doing the same thing you're doing, people who can tell you the truth, people who can pick you up. And then I guess it's also just trying to develop a relationship with yourself whereby, you know, like I'll quote that Aaliyah song, like if at first you don't succeed, like dust yourself off and try again. Like literally, like that's what you have to do. That's the nature of the job. If you take 10 no's and decide you're going to give up, then maybe you weren't about that life. You know, you could be the most creative person, but you have to develop a thicker skin. And you know, like you could get 50 no's for the first 10 years and something happens, you do that one thing, then all of a sudden it's like yes, 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 you know. I'll give you an example. I shot a bunch of videos, you know. The directors I was assisting couldn't shoot a video for this artist, so they were like, try Akin. And then I shot a couple of things. They weren't very good, but this person kept on coming back to me to shoot stuff. And then I went to Nigeria and he gave me £2,000. He was like, do whatever you want. And I shot this video and I was like, that was a moment things switched in my head. And I was like, wow, it's the best thing I've ever shot. You know, I got it on ID. I was like, I'm going to start getting videos like that, man. You just watch, like, this video is so sick. For 6 months, not a single email or anything. Like, wow, like that has really, yeah, my confidence has taken a knock, you know? I was like, all right, cool. Well, I guess that's not happening yet. So I'll go and get another desk job. I got a desk job. And again, another important thing is just like take opportunities, you know, like even if you do something, everyone wants to go like this, but sometimes you might have an opportunity to take you to the side and bring you back, because doing that desk job built my confidence a lot. It also meant that people who weren't responding to my initial emails, because I now have this title from a different job, they started responding to my emails because I had a title, so I could meet them in person, and then you start building relationships. So when I left, I had those contacts from that job. But anyway, back to the story. So those videos, nothing started coming through. I got the desk job, and then I started shooting videos for my friends, you know? And they didn't really know why, but I was like, hey, if I can do the thing I want to do, that way I can start to learn. And then I started getting, after I did the thing I wanted to do, I started getting more and more interest, you know? So I think a lot of the time people are going to say no. Some days you're going to feel like you want to give up. A lot of days you're going to feel like a fraud. For a lot of it, you're going to feel like a fraud. You're going to feel like, you know, like you don't know what you're doing. You're going to have ideas and you shoot them and they'll look awful. but it's like everything is a learning process, you know. Like I heard from somewhere that like in order to become a master of something, it takes 7 years, you know. And I was like, okay, well, let's see where I am as a filmmaker in 7 years, because I think I can get a lot of experience in 7 years. You know, sometimes after 5 years, I was like, wow, maybe I'm gonna make it. No, and I chose to become a filmmaker when I was 24, and I'm 36 now. So it probably took me about 7 years, because when I started shooting stuff, that's when I got all this experience. I was super confident, and then the last 3 years is when I've been doing like bigger and bigger projects. And yeah, the what's the word? The thing where you feel like a fraud, imposter syndrome, it never really leaves, you know. And even now, some things I'll do that they won't be 10 out of 10, you know. Some things I'll be really disappointed because I didn't execute as well as I thought, or I didn't pick the right team. And it's still just part of the lesson, you know. I think like if you're doing something artistic, you're learning a craft, and it's going to take time to get really good at that. And people shouldn't be so hard on themselves for being an infant, you know, in what you're learning. It takes a lot of time to learn stuff, and you make a lot of mistakes. But if you're prepared to like, you know, be gentle with yourself and try again and try again and try again and try again, then, you know, you're probably in the right place doing the right thing, basically.
Okay. So you mentioned that you grew up I read, so you grew up in Nigeria and also in England.
Yes.
And did you actually have a blueprint of who you wanted to become? Because most people are really not exposed to what they have in mind to be, right? So there's a saying that goes, it is hard to become what you don't see, and easy to become what you are exposed to. So people who are out there who are not exposed, who are not seeing who they want to become in their present situation, or say in their families where they don't have anyone to like reference point, they do not have people that they know who have achieved something that they want to be. What would your advice actually be, or in your situation, did you have someone who was already, so you said your friend's dad was an editor.
Yeah.
So was he sort of like your reference point?
Yes, in a way. Like, I knew it's gonna sound so weird, but I'm doing it because I've always thought I was gonna be great. I just I don't know where that comes from. I've always thought I was gonna be great. Maybe my mum built me up to think that way. And I've always been surrounded by really great people, especially like my aunts, my mums. They've always been super great. My sister quite early on said something like, be the light you want to see in the world, I think. Some sort of quote like that, and I've held on to that ever since I was a kid. And also my mum said, question everything, you know. So I think in a way I've always had like a lot of confidence in myself, and I know a lot of people might not have confidence in themselves, but you kind of have to develop that language with yourself, you know. Like people say sometimes people say I'm cheeky and stuff, but it's the only way I know how to be. It's like I only know how to be confident, because behind that, like, what, I wasn't good academically, so what else am I gonna do, you know? But yeah, so my friend's dad, yeah, he was an editor, but it was actually less about him being an editor. It was more about like they had like a really wonderful, loving family unit. And I was like, wow, this is like a bohemian family. I've never seen anything like this. They had a big house in Rye, and his brother had a disability. They were taking care of him in a wheelchair. He had a younger brother. His mum was an artist, and they had this big house and these 2 dogs, and they were doing the house up. And I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this, you know? I was like, I want this. Whatever they have, I want this. And then said his dad was an editor. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to be an editor then, you know? But yeah, I think like, yeah, I don't know. I think really you have to manifest, and this might start sounding a bit like spiritual or whatever, but I think you have to manifest things for yourself that maybe you don't even believe. You have to start talking about those things. People are always really shy of talking about their ideas and what they want to do, and feel a bit nervous until they've done it. Like, not really me. I'm like, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to be really successful. I'm going to live a very long life. These are all things I say to myself like regularly, because I need for myself to believe it, you know? Like, on the days where I don't believe it, I need the rest of the days to make me believe it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just like adopting an idea of like where you want to be in the future. Like, what do you see for yourself, and not being scared to dream, really, like not being scared to dream. My brother always says this thing. He was like, sometimes people want to understand your dreams, so you have to show them. You have to figure out a way of making it so people can understand, because if you keep explaining it and they still don't understand, you're going to get disheartened. So actually you have to show them, you know? You have to get that job, earn that money, put it together, shoot the thing yourself, and be like, this is what I was talking about. And then people are like, okay, I get it, you know? But yeah.
This is all the questions that I have for you.
Okay.
So so thank you so much for taking the time, and it's been so lovely to have you. And do you have any other contribution you'd like to make?
It's just that, firstly, thank you, really good questions. You did great. What I would say is maybe the thing I say in workshops, whenever I do workshops and whatever, is that like, if you really want to do something and you're willing to, like, again, like I'll give it as an analogy in filmmaking, right? Because that's what I do. If someone is willing to come up with an idea, convince people to be in that idea, shoot that idea on the phone, you know, get people together, shoot the idea on the phone, get some crack software, edit the software, download the software, put it on YouTube and share it, then you're going to be a filmmaker, you know? If you want to be a model and you can find a photographer, get some clothes, get that photographer to come and take a picture of you in those clothes, get those pictures from the photographer, send them to people, then you're probably going to be a model, or you're on your way, you know? Like, I think a lot of the things we need to do, sometimes we feel like maybe someone's going to come and like pick us and rescue us or something. But the reality of a situation most of the time is that you're going to have to make it happen with whatever you have. And to not be embarrassed of whatever you have, you know, like, you might not have like the most expensive equipment, or you might not have like the coolest people around you, whatever, but use what you have to get as a starting point to get where you need to go. And don't be ashamed of what you have, you know, like, it's just the reality of the situation. Like, you can't change that. So yeah, if people are willing to go that length to try and create the thing they want to be, then I think that's a good position to be in, for sure.
Thank you.
No worries.